Okay, let's unpack this. If you've ever heard of Harry Potter, you're already familiar with a hint of something far older, much richer than just a wizarding school legend.
Right. It taps into something really deep.
Exactly. Imagine an object so powerful it could turn base metals into gold, heal any illness, and maybe even grant immortality.
It sounds like pure fantasy, doesn't it?
It does. But today, we're not just talking about a simple myth. We're taking a deep dive into humanity's long-standing obsession with the Philosopher's Stone.
Mm.
We'll explore its incredible history, its surprising global presence, and the profound ways it's been understood, from literal chemistry right through to spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And to guide us, we've distilled insights from a pretty comprehensive collection of sources, giving us a good foundational summary of this, well, mythical substance.
And I think you'll quickly discover that while many people have a surface-level understanding, there are just layers upon layers of meaning beneath that common perception. It's a really rich tapestry woven through millennia of human thought and aspiration.
It sounds like it. Far more than just a magical rock.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So let's start at the very beginning. What exactly is the Philosopher's Stone at its core?
Well, the simplest definition, right?
Yeah.
It's a mythic alchemical substance, supposedly capable of transmuting base metals like mercury, lead, into gold or silver.
Okay, the transmutation part.
Yeah,
But the ambition didn't stop there, did it?
not at all. Alchemists also believed it could be used to create an elixir of life.
Ah, the elixir.
Yes, promising rejuvenation, healing, maybe even immortality itself.
So it was truly the ultimate two-for-one deal then. Ultimate wealth and unending life.
Pretty much. And what's truly captivating about this is that for many centuries, this wasn't just some theoretical concept. It was the most sought-after goal in alchemy. Seriously.
A main prize.
The main prize. But it wasn't just about literal wealth or, eternal youth either. The Philosopher's Stone became this central symbol in alchemy's mystical terminology. It symbolized perfection itself. Divine illumination, heavenly bliss. I mean, the efforts to discover it were known as the magnum opus.
The great work.
The great work, exactly. This was a quest for ultimate transformation, not just of matter, but crucially of the self.
A great work indeed.
Yeah.
So how far back does this incredibly powerful concept actually go?
Well, its earliest known written mention is in the Chiraq Meta by Zosmos of Panopolis. That dates back to around 300 AD.
Okay, 300 AD. That's pretty old.
It is. But even then, there were claims of a much older lineage, hints of knowledge from time immemorial.
Really? Like how old?
While you have alchemical writers like Elias Ashmole and the anonymous author of Gloria Mundi from 1620, they actually claimed its history went back to Adar himself.
Adam, as in the first man.
That's the claim. Supposedly, Adam acquired this knowledge directly from God.
Wow.
And this profound wisdom was then said to have been passed down through biblical patriarchs, their legendary longevity, attributed to using the stone or its secrets.
That's incredible.
There's even a comparison made to the biblical history of the Temple of Solomon and the rejected cornerstone described in Psalm 118. So linking it to the deepest sacred wisdom, a fundamental, unifying truth.
That's an astonishing claim about its origins.
Yeah.
And its theoretical roots actually go even deeper, right? Back to classical Greek philosophy.
Precisely. Alchemists were quite ingenious. They used concepts like the classical elements fire, water, air, earth, and the anima mundi, the soul of the world.
Right.
And even creation stories from texts like Plato's Timaeus, they use these as analogies for their complex alchemical processes.
So borrowing from the philosophical toolkit.
Exactly. And from Plato specifically came this idea of prima materia.
Prima materia.
First matter. First matter, yeah. A common, sort of undifferentiated source from which the four elements were derived, often associated with chaos, the primordial soup, if you will.
Okay.
And this prima materia then became the foundational starting ingredient for creating the Philosopher's Stone.
The essential stuff you needed to begin.
The essential stuff. As Thomas Vaughan put it very eloquently in the 17th century, the first matter of the stone is the very same with the first matter of all things.
So it's the essence of reality itself.
That's how they thought, waiting to be transformed.
Okay, so as we move into the Middle Ages, Byzantine and Muslim alchemists really built upon Zosimos's work, didn't they? They became intensely fascinated with this idea of metal transmutation.
They absolutely did. This period saw a huge evolution in alchemical theory.
And this is where figures like Jabir ibn Hayyan come in. the 8th century Muslim alchemist.
Yes, Jabir made a truly groundbreaking contribution. He developed this sophisticated theory, basically, that each classical element could be analyzed in terms of four basic qualities.
Hmm.
Hot, dry, cold, cold, moist, hot, moist.
Like a matrix of qualities.
Kind of, yeah. He theorized that metals were simply different combinations of these qualities, and if you could rearrange them in the correct proportions.
You can change one metal into another.
Yeah.
Transmutation.
That was the theory. It wasn't just a simple idea. Jabir was proposing almost a proto-scientific framework for understanding matter, how transformation might even be possible.
And how did he think this rearrangement would happen?
He believed it would be mediated by a substance called zerion in Greek, or elixir in Arabic.
Elixir. Sounds like elixir.
Exactly where we get the word. It was often described as a dry red powder known as alkibrit alamar, or red sulfur, supposedly made from the legendary stone itself.
The elixir powder.
Right. And this elixir powder became absolutely crucial for later Arab alchemists. It really set the stage for centuries of experimentation.
It sounds like an incredible leap forward in thinking, but not everyone was convinced, were they?
No, definitely not. The 11th century saw a pretty notable debate among chemists in the Muslim world. Avicenna, the great Persian polymath, was a leading skeptic.
What did he say?
He basically stated, "Those of the chemical craft know well that no change can be effected in the different species of substances, though they can produce the appearance of such change."
So he thought it was just imitation, like
Yes.
clever tricks.
Essentially, yes. That what looks like transmutation was just making something look like gold, not actually changing its fundamental nature.
Interesting, a voice of scientific skepticism even back then.
Yet, despite that skepticism from someone as influential as Avicenna, the legend clearly persisted. It had too much power.
How so?
Well, take the 13th century scientist and philosopher Albertus Magnus, for instance. He's famously said to have discovered the Philosopher's Stone.
Did he confirm that?
He didn't actually confirm it in his own writings, but he did record witnessing the creation of gold by transmutation.
Ah, so he saw it happen, or believes he did.
Exactly. It highlights the enduring power of the belief, even when faced with burgeoning rational inquiry.
So the legend continued, crossing into Europe and evolving. As we shift into the vibrant period of the Renaissance and early modern era, new minds brought their own interpretations, right?
Absolutely. People like Paracelsus, the 16th century Swiss alchemist.
What was his take?
Paracelsus believed in something called alkahest. He thought it was this undiscovered universal solvent, and that all other elements were just sort of derivative forms of it.
A universal solvent.
Yeah, and Paracelsus actually believed this alkahest was essentially the Philosopher's Stone. It implies this fundamental hidden unity beneath all matter.
Fascinating. And the quest took on deeper meanings, too. More religious.
Very much so, especially during this time. Sir Thomas Browne, in his 1643 spiritual testament Religio Medici, connected the pursuit directly to divinity. He said, "The smattering I have of the Philosopher's Stone hath taught me a great deal of divinity."
So the search itself was a spiritual teacher.
For some, absolutely. It was seen as a path to profound spiritual insight. And then there's the Mutus Liber,
The wordless book.
right, from the 17th century, just 15 illustrations. It's often seen as a symbolic instruction manual for concocting the stone, purely through images.
No words needed.
Apparently not. It really shows how the search transcended mere chemistry. It became a quest for profound truth, often hidden in symbols.
Okay, shifting our gaze now. What's fascinating here is that this whole concept of the Philosopher's Stone isn't just a Western thing, is it?
Not at all. It has a significant equivalent in both Buddhism and Hinduism.
Which is
The Sintamani, also known sometimes as Paras or Parasmani or Paris.
Sintamani. So it suggests a kind of universal human quest for similar ultimate power or wisdom.
I think it really does. In Mahayana Buddhism, for instance, the Sintamani is held by revered bodhisattvas like Avalokiteshvara and Siddhikarma.
What does it represent for them?
It symbolizes their compassion and their ability to grant wishes. You can even see it depicted on Tibetan prayer flags carried by the Lingta, the wind horse.
Ah, the wind horse flags. I've seen those.
And Buddhist tradition holds that reciting the Dharani of Chintamani grants the wisdom of Buddhas, an understanding of truth. It can turn afflictions into bodhi, that's enlightenment.
Wow.
It's even said to allow one to see Amitabha's holy retinue upon their deathbed. In Tibetan tradition, it's sometimes depicted as a luminous pearl radiating spiritual light.
That sounds incredibly profound. So similar in its implications to the Western stone, but with a distinctly Buddhist flavor. How does that concept bridge over into Hinduism?
It connects quite beautifully, actually. In Hinduism, the Sintamani is linked with gods like Vishnu and Ganesha. It's often depicted as a fabulous jewel, maybe in the possession of the Naga king or on the forehead of the Makara, that mythical sea creature.
So a divine jewel.
Yes. And the Yoga Vasista, a text from around the 10th century AD, contains a story about the stone, showing its deep roots in Hindu thought.
And other figures used it too.
Oh, yes. The great Hindu sage Sentanashwar, writing between 1275 and 1296, used the stone as a metaphor for gnosis.
Gnosis meaning.
Direct, intuitive knowledge or spiritual insight, the kind that often transcends ordinary reason. He made 17 explicit references to it, transmuting base metal into gold, using it as this powerful metaphor.
So spiritual alchemy again.
Exactly. And similarly, the 7th century Siddhar Tirumular, in his Tirumantarma, explains Shiva's very name as an alchemical vehicle, one that can turn the human body into immortal gold.
Transforming the self into something divine.
Precisely. It's about the spiritual alchemy of the self.
There's even another fascinating Hindu depiction, isn't there? The Shamantaka Mani.
Ah, yes, the Shamantakamani, said to be a ruby capable of preventing natural calamities, droughts, floods, things like that.
Yeah.
And, incredibly, producing 8 baras, that's roughly 1,700 pounds or 700 kilograms of gold, daily.
700 kilograms of gold a day. The sheer magnitude of the promised benefits across these traditions is just astonishing.
A truly practical and benevolent gem, if it existed in that form, a very different flavor to the Western stone in some ways.
Right, so we've touched on its core purpose, but the real mystique of the Philosopher's Stone lies in this incredible array of powers and identities it was said to possess.
Absolutely.
Let's delve deeper into its legendary attributes, and the secret names alchemists used, and how they pictured it. Beyond the well-known stuff, transmuting metals, healing, prolonging life with wine, what else was it meant to do?
Oh, the list gets quite wild. It really reflects humanity's deepest desires, I think. Not just for wealth, but for ultimate control over life, death, even the fabric of existence.
Like what?
Well, sources mention the creation of perpetually burning lamps.
Eternal light sources.
Right, the transmutation of common crystals into precious stones and diamonds, reviving dead plants, creating flexible or malleable glass.
Flexible glass. That's oddly specific.
Isn't it? And even the creation of a clone or a homunculus.
A homunculus, like a little artificial person?
That's the idea. It was a projection of humanity's deepest aspirations for mastery over the material world and life itself.
And to protect these secrets, or maybe just because the stone was so elusive, it had tons of different names, right? Oblique references.
Loads of them. Probably to obscure its true nature from the uninitiated, the unworthy. You see names like white stone, calculus albus, or vitriol.
You mentioned vitriol was an acronym.
Yes, that's a great example of the hidden layers. Vitriol stood for a Latin phrase, visita interiora terrae rectificando in venis occultum lapidem.
Okay, Latin is not my strong suit. What does that mean?
It translates to visit the interior of the earth, and by rectifying what you find, you will discover the hidden stone.
Visit the interior of the earth.
It's a beautiful metaphor, really, suggesting the path to true wisdom, or the stone itself, is an inward journey. Self-discovery, purification, not just digging around outside.
An internal quest. Makes sense. What other names?
Oh, things like lapis noster, our stone, lapis occultus, hidden stone, and a whole host of mystical or mythological names. Atom, animal, alkahest, ovum philosophorum.
Egg of the philosophers.
Egg the philosophers, yeah. And phoenix, emphasizing its regenerative power.
It gets even more intriguing when you consider its connection to Christian allegory. How were Christ and the stone seen as, like, identical in a mystical sense?
Yeah, it's fascinating how medieval allegories did that. Much like Christ was considered the cornerstone of the church, embodying divine perfection and salvation, the stone was mystically seen the same way. An embodiment of ultimate perfection, capable of transforming the base, or what they might consider sinful, into the sublime, the divine.
So a physical manifestation of spiritual redemption.
In a way, yes. Priscillian, back in the 4th century, stated, Christ the rock to us, Jesus the cornerstone to us, drawing that parallel directly. And it's also worth noting a little linguistic point. The Latin lapis philosophorum and the Arabic ajar al-falasifa, they both actually use the plural form of philosophers, meaning philosopher's stone, not philosopher's stone like we usually say.
Philosophers plural, so stone of the philosophers.
Exactly. Which subtly shifts the meaning, doesn't it? It suggests a collective wisdom or achievement, perhaps, rather than just one person's discovery.
That grammatical nuance is fascinating. It really changes the feel of it. Okay, now, for its appearance, descriptions were all over the place, weren't they?
Numerous and varied, absolutely, but alchemical texts generally describe two main varieties:
Which were?
white for making silver and red for making gold. The white stone was often considered a less matured or maybe less potent version of the red one.
Okay, so red was the ultimate goal for gold. What did the red stone supposedly look like?
Well, often it was said to be orange or saffron colored when ground into a powder.
Okay.
In solid form, descriptions range from an intermediate between red and purple to being transparent and glass-like.
And its properties, physical ones.
Its weight was said to be heavier than gold. It was supposedly soluble in any liquid, yet totally incombustible in fire.
Heavier than gold, dissolves in anything, but doesn't burn. Sounds paradoxical.
It does, and what's really important to remember here is that some authors explicitly suggested these physical descriptors were entirely metaphorical.
So maybe not literal descriptions at all.
Possibly. Just adding another layer to the mystery, challenging researchers to look beyond the surface appearance.
Which brings us to that geometric description from Atalanta Fuegine's emblem X1. It gives this kind of visual riddle. Make of a man and woman a circle, then a quadrangle. Out of this a triangle. Make again a circle, and you will have the stone of the wise. What on earth is that about?
Right. It sounds cryptic, but it's essentially a symbolic map for creation and transformation.
Okay, break it down for us.
So imagine starting from a unified source, that first circle. Primordial oneness, maybe the prima materia.
The circle is unity.
Then breaking it down into a quadrangle that could symbolize the four elements, or the fundamental components of reality: earth, air, fire, water.
Man and woman into a circle, then a quadrangle. Okay.
Then refining and elevating that quadrangle into a triangle. This represents purification, maybe body, spirit, and soul, often depicted through three colors.
The color stages we hear about.
Exactly. The blackness of Saturn, the raw, dark starting point. Then lunar whiteness purification. Then solar citrinity illumination.
Black, white, yellow.
Right. And this perfected triangle then changes into an invariable redness, the final stage. It symbolizes the feminine principle converting into the masculine, maybe, returning to a final perfected unity, the final circle, eternal rest.
So it's a map for alchemy, personal growth, spiritual evolution, all rolled into one.
That's how it's often interpreted, yes. A recipe for perfection. Rupasisa even used Christian passion imagery for this final stage, saying, "The stone ascends from the sepulchre of the most excellent king, shining and glorious, resuscitated from the dead, and wearing a red diadem."
Wow. From geometry to resurrection imagery. Look, given all these incredible properties and symbolic layers, there's obviously been long-standing speculation about its actual composition and source.
Yeah, actually.
The exoteric candidates, the physical stuff, they ranged wildly, right? Metals, plants, rocks, chemical compounds, even bodily products.
Oh, yes. Things like hair, urine, eggs were all considered at various points. Justus von Liebig, a much later prominent chemist, noted that back then it was indispensable that every substance accessible should be observed and examined. They were looking everywhere.
A real scattergun approach.
You could say that, but this is a crucial distinction. While some searched for a literal physical substance,
Yeah.
the esoteric hermetic alchemists often directed their search inward.
Back to the internal quest.
Exactly. They used the language of exoteric, lab-based alchemy, but they used it to express profound theological, philosophical, or mystical beliefs and aspirations.
So the recipes weren't for chemicals, but for the soul.
For them, yes. The processes they described for making the stone were blueprints for inner transformation. There's even a fascinating psychological interpretation. Idris Shah explores this in the Sufis, analyzing the symbolic meaning based on linguistic interpretations of terms like azoth, sulfur, salt, mercury.
So in that view, the stone becomes a metaphor for achieving psychological and spiritual wholeness.
Precisely. Integrating the different parts of the psyche.
So whether literal or metaphorical, how was this stone supposedly created? The method was the magnum opus, right? The great work.
That's the one. The great work.
What did the instructions involve?
Well, the instructions were varied, naturally, but often expressed as that series of distinct color changes we mentioned.
Negredo, albedo.
Right. Negredo black representing the raw, unpurified state, chaos. Moving to albedo, white for cleansing and purification. Then citrinitas, yellow, indicating illumination or spiritual awakening. And finally rubedo, red, symbolizing the perfected state, the ultimate union.
Black, white, yellow, red, the stages of perfection.
Or sometimes it could be described as a series of 7 or 12 distinct chemical processes. It always culminated in stages like multiplication, making more of the stone, and projection, actually using it to transmute metals.
So a complex, multi-stage operation, whether in a lab crucible or within the alchemist's own self.
Absolutely. A detailed recipe for achieving perfection, however you defined it.
So what does this all mean, this enduring fascination? What does it mean for us today? The Philosopher's Stone, even just as a concept, it remains a really powerful inspiration in art and entertainment, doesn't it? Still capturing our imaginations.
It absolutely does. You see it prominently in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, obviously. That brought it to a whole new generation.
Can't escape that one.
No. But it also appears in films like As Above, So Below, which plays heavily on the alchemical symbolism. The hugely popular anime Full Metal Alchemist is entirely built around it.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
And the TV show The Flash used it, the classic Japanese film The Mystery of Mamo. Its influence even has roots as an important motif way back in early Gothic fiction. It originated in William Godwin's 1799 novel St. Leon.
1799, so it's been a literary device for centuries.
Its power as a narrative device and a symbol is truly enduring. It speaks to something fundamental.
What an incredible journey through time and across cultures this has been. From, an ancient alchemical goal for literal wealth and immortality, all the way to this complex spiritual and psychological metaphor. The Philosopher's Stone has captivated humanity for centuries.
It really demonstrates, I think, the enduring human fascination with transformation, with the pursuit of ultimate knowledge, and with that deep-seated quest for perfection, in whatever form that takes for different people or cultures.
It holds up a mirror to our deepest aspirations, doesn't it?
It really does. It tells us a lot about what humans have valued and sought after across history.
So reflecting on all this, what stands out to you from this deep dive?
You know, perhaps the true Philosopher's Stone isn't some mythical material substance after all. Maybe it lies in the enduring human quest itself, that relentless search for understanding, for self-transformation, for something more. What do you think?